Sparshan Kritva Bahir Bahyam Chakshushchaivantare Bhruvoho Prana Pano Samo Kritva Asabhyantara Charino. Anyone else? Sparshan Kritva Bahir Bahyam Chakshushchaivantare Bhruvoho Anapano Samo Kritva Nasabhyantara Charino. Thank you. So, Sprishan, sense objects such as sound. Kritva, keeping. Bahihi, external. Bahyan, unnecessary. Chakshuhu, eyes. Cham, also. Evam, certainly. Antare, between. Bruvoho, the eyebrows. Prana apanao, up and down moving air. Samao, in suspension. Kritva, keeping. Nasabhyantara, within the nostrils. Charino, blowing. Yata, controlled. Indriyam, senses. So translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shutting out all external objects, keeping the eyes and vision concentrated between the two eyebrows, suspending the inward and outward breaths within the nostrils, and thus controlling the mind, senses, and intelligence. The transcendentalist, aiming at liberation, becomes free from desire, fear, and anger. One who is always in this state is certainly liberated. Purport. Being engaged in Krishna consciousness, one can immediately understand one's spiritual identity, and then one can understand the Supreme Lord by means of devotional service. When one is well situated in devotional service, one comes to the transcendental position, qualified to feel the presence of the Lord in the sphere of one's activity. This particular position is called liberation in the Supreme. After explaining the above principles of liberation in the Supreme, the Lord gives instruction to Arjuna. Lord gives instruction to Arjuna as to how one can come to that position by the practice of mysticism or yoga, known as Ashtanga Yoga, which is divisible into an eightfold procedure called Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. In the sixth chapter, the subject of yoga is explicitly detailed, and the end of the fifth and at the end of the fifth, it is only preliminarily explained. One has to drive out the sense objects such as the sound, touch, form, taste, and smell by the pratyahara process in yoga, and then keep the vision of the eyes between the two eyebrows and concentrate on the tip of the nose with half closed eyelids. There is no benefit in closing the eyes altogether because then there is every chance of falling asleep. Nor is there benefit in opening the eyes completely because then there is the hazard of being attracted by the sense objects. The breathing movement is restrained within the nostrils by neutralizing the upmoving and downmoving air within the body. By practice of such yoga, one is able to gain control of the senses, refrain from outward sense objects, and thus prepare oneself for liberation in the Supreme. The yoga process helps one become free from all kinds of fear and anger and thus feel the presence of the Supersoul in the transcendental situation. In other words, Krishna consciousness is the easiest process of executing yoga principles. This will be thoroughly explained in the next chapter. A Krishna conscious person, however, being always engaged in devotional service, does not risk losing his senses to some other engagement. This is a better way of controlling the senses than by the Ashtanga Yoga. Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadam Mahyam Dati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Tafpada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Matam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijanap Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Matamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikasa Swaminati Namane Nijaguru Harivanya Krishna Chitto Vichinto Parihita Pitri Gehadyanda Sangsara Kupaha Prabhu Bhajana Sukabdo Madjayan Swam Svishvo Bhuvi Jayati Vikaso Bhakti Purvo Yatindraha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminati Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyati Teshatarine Vagisha Yasya Vadane Lakshmi Yasya Chivakshisi Yasyase Hridaye Samvitam Nrsimham Aham Bhaje Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so today we're studying this verse in the end of the fifth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. It's called Karma Yoga, Action, and Krishna Consciousness, and Krishna is explaining a particular kind of process of yoga where a person can understand how to control their senses via various mechanical means. Does the camera have to be in my face like this? I'm finding it hard to look at the audience here. So Krishna is explaining different methods by which we can control our senses by various mechanical means. And by doing such a thing, a person is able to control the mind. And we see that this kind of yoga or the practice of Ashtanga yoga seems to be very attractive to many conditioned souls. To many people, we think, wow, this yoga is so nice, it's so amazing, it's so good for me. I can, stretch, I can stretch my body, and definitely performing a little exercise definitely makes the body feel good and all these things. And certainly, when we perform these yoga exercises and do all these things, we try to control our mind. And that's the whole purpose of performing all these different yoga gymnastics. You go and you perform this yoga exercise and that yoga exercise, and it is good for your health. It certainly is good for your health. Like if a person wants to have longevity in their life, it's certainly good advice for them to perform yoga. Sure, yoga exercise, that's good. But the problem is, or the hoax is, that just by stretching our body in particular directions and pressing our nostrils like this and then pressing our nostrils like that, people think that they have become completely self-realized. That is not true. That you can perform yoga exercises for as long as you want in this world, but as long as a person does not know where to concentrate their mind, it simply becomes a big hoax. Now we want to control our mind, we want to perform all these activities, we want to, and most of the time we see that when we go to yoga studios, we see that it's very popular. Fortunately, it's not so popular in Atlanta, but you can see in most of the places in America, yoga is very popular, and you can see yoga instructors, and you can see all of them. What is the whole goal of life? The whole goal of life is to have a fit body so you can live like an animal. Some animals are vegetarian and some animals are not. So you can live, some yoga instructors have this explanation that, yeah, you can live like a nice herbivorous animal, where you don't eat meat, but you can do everything else, all the other nonsense that you want to do. And when a person performs all these different yoga exercises, certainly their body becomes fit. But the whole purpose of performing yoga isn't to have a fit body. The very word yoga, what does the very word yoga mean? Yoga means to link. Yoga means to link with Krishna present within our heart. That is what yoga means. But most people have this great misconception that yoga just means we just have to stretch our limbs and stretch our body, and then when we feel good, that is the sum and substance of life. That's it. That's the perfection of life. That's the purpose of yoga. But no, that's just simply a mundane exercise. Real yoga, if a person really wants to perform Ashtanga yoga, they actually have to meditate. They actually have to learn to keep their mind still in such a way and simply focus on the tip of the nose for many hundreds of years. That is a bona fide way a person actually practices yoga in this world. But we can see that in Kali Yuga, in the current age that we are living, our minds are always disturbed. Anyone here whose mind is not disturbed? Anyone feels like their mind is not disturbed? Please let us know. In case you are here, we'd like to perform arti to you. Um, but if you're not, then you can understand that there's a particular reason why our mind is not disturbed, because our mind is always agitated, especially in the age of quarrel. In the age of quarrel and hypocrisy, we find that there's so many elements which are constantly causing disturbance to the mind, where it's almost impossible for a person to live peacefully. We can say that, if we read the Srimad Bhagavatam, we will actually find that people who actually used to go and perform yoga, especially in the previous ages, used to first look for a place fit enough to go and perform yoga. What is a place like this? A place like this is a place where, firstly, no sinful activities are being performed. Can we find any place like that here, where no one is eating any meat, no one is killing any animals, no one is performing activities which are detrimental to their own spiritual life, like taking intoxication, or killing a whole lot of animals and eating them, or performing activities like being with someone else's wife, or doing something like this. It's impossible to find a place like this in this world right now. We can go, and then also, even if we were to find such a place, the atmosphere is completely polluted. We see that this day and age, the atmosphere is so polluted, not just with smoke and all these things, but even the subtle nature, the ether is completely contaminated with different sound vibrations which are traveling. And you can understand this, that if you simply use a radio, you can tune into a certain frequency, and you can hear what a particular radio station is putting out there, right? Whatever they're promoting. You tune into, what's the famous FM or AM thing here? 92.3 FM or something like that. Whatever. Anyway, whatever. I saw an advertisement for something on the billboard. Okay, Sneaks, whatever that is. Okay, Street Snap 45. You can tune your radio to Street Snap 45, and then I'm assuming, what do you hear? Okay, you hear sex songs all the time. You can tune this on, and you can simply, what is played? This sex song is played, and all this other nonsense activity. The entire atmosphere is totally polluted by these different sound waves, which are completely contaminating. Why? Because sound has the greatest effect on a person. You can see something, you may forget it, and all these things. But when you hear something which really creates an effect on a person's mind, then it's kind of hard to forget. Maybe you can see, it's okay. It's one thing that you may see someone, getting stabbed, and that itself may be a very brutal thing. But, if you hear them getting stabbed, and like you can hear their pain, then that even creates a much greater impact. You know, even you may see something, it may not, like even if you heard someone getting stabbed, that itself causes such a big trauma in your life. Without sound, if the sound was turned off, we would actually not be able to experience so many things, because the ear is a very very important organ of the body, because this ear is actually meant to take in subtle things. For example, when we eat, our eyes are engaged, our nose is engaged, our mouth is engaged, and our fingers are engaged. All these things are engaged. But a sense of hearing has nothing to do with eating. Why? Because eating has something to do with the gross senses. But the sense of sound is meant for taking in subtle knowledge and actually purifying the mind. But in this day and age, we find that whether you can go anywhere you like, the entire atmosphere is completely polluted with nonsense sound vibrations. And because the entire atmosphere is polluted with these kinds of nonsense sound vibrations, it is very, very hard for a person to fix their mind upon performing all these different yoga systems. It's very hard. Nowadays, we think, wow, it's so nice. I can download an app called Spaced Out or Headspace or whatever like this. Download an app, and this app will teach me to meditate. And for 10 minutes, I meditate, and after I meditate, then everything is completely fine. We can think, wow, my life is so good. I meditated for 10 minutes. I use this app, and after I use this app, now I feel very calm. But then how long does that calmness stay? How long does that calmness stay? You can see, Oh, you can perform one exercise, this exercise, that exercise. How long does that have an actual effect on the mind? It's like watching a motivational speaker speak on a video. You may be motivated for like 2 minutes after that motivational talk, and then after that, you're back to square one, if not worse. Why? Because these things have no lasting effect. These things have no lasting effect at all. Nowadays, you see, nowadays, many things are popular, like beer yoga is very popular. You heard of this? Anyone heard of beer yoga? You heard? Yeah, beer yoga. Beer yoga. People think that they can do yoga and also drink beer at the same. Oh, you never, no one heard of it. That's amazing. Okay, but yeah, the reason I know about it is because we were in Union Square in New York, distributing books and doing Harinam, and right next to us, someone else set up a booth called Beer Yoga, and I was like, this is so crazy. And I looked it up, and it's a real thing. It's a real thing where, like, people perform yoga and all this, and after that drink beer, and the thing is very good. It's very amazing. But these kind of things are completely hoaxes. You see, if you read the scripture, you read the Shastra, you'll find that so many people may try to do yoga, but you see, they never do it. They never do it with a whole lot of people. They always do it alone. Look at Shastra, look at the scriptures, look at places where people are actually performing all these different, yoga postures and all this. Where does it say that they all did it together? Nowhere will you find. You will not find this anywhere. You'll not find anywhere that a whole lot of people have come together and they're performing yoga. It never happens. The whole purpose of yoga, if another point too, if one really wants to be a yogi, especially an Ashtanga yogi, celibacy is absolutely required. It's actually a prerequisite. If one wants to become a yogi, a person has to be celibate. Let's see. Let's take a poll. How many yoga teachers are celibate? What do you think? I think it's -1. What is the answer? It's bogus. It's complete nonsense. Where is this? Where is the real thing? Oh, you're a great yoga teacher. Very nice. Are you celibate? No, I sleep with so many people like monkeys. What is the use? What is the use? They may seem very renounced. They may seem very fit. Monkey is also very renounced. Monkey is also vegetarian. He sits and he's also very flexible. He can do so many gymnastics. He can beat any yoga teacher. That small monkey, baby monkey, small guy, can come and do more yoga than any of these yoga teachers on the planet. So many. He can come and do more yoga than so many people. He's also vegetarian also. He's also vegetarian. Vegan, actually. Right? Monkeys are vegan, right? Most likely. Monkeys are vegan. They have nice vegan monkeys. But then what do? They keep 12 girlfriends, and they perform on these kinds of activities. So all these things is a big hoax. You want to do yoga, you want to control your mind, then the mind should not be agitated. What agitates the mind the most? Huh? The opposite sex? Okay, yeah. Anyway, yes. Most of the time, yes. Okay. But yeah, yes, sex life, agitates the mind so much. The mind is agitated by sex. Oh, if we think of the opposite sex, or we look at the opposite sex, or anything like that, and the mind is agitated so much. So then you're in the yoga studio. I remember distributing books again. I'm getting a lot of my New York memories flashing back to my mind right now. I remember distributing books in Columbus Circle, and then I could see on a building somewhere it says Core Yoga or something like this. And then who is teaching it? This more than half naked women is teaching it. With looking all very nice. And there's so many men and women that are all doing this yoga together. They're all sitting and doing this yoga together. So where is the hope of controlling your mind? Tell me, who is such a yogi that you're stretching your body and right next to you another hot girl is stretching her body and your mind is completely not agitated? Is there anyone like that? Can people do that? You see in the Shastra, do people do that? You see the people who really control their mind, can they do that? No. But it's a big hoax. It goes on like this. Oh, I feel so spiritual. I go to this yoga center to do a little yoga and find a vegetarian girlfriend. What is this? It's simply nonsense. It's simply a hoax. There is no real control of the senses. Oh, yeah, I'm meditating. I'm controlling my mind. I'm sitting like this. You're sleeping. You're snoring most of the time. Most of the time people are snoring. There is no way to actually understand what the real system is. So, but the problem comes here, and this is the real problem, that it feels good, right? It feels good, so do it. It feels good, so do it. What's the problem? It feels good, so do it. Might as well do it, right? It just feels good, so do it. And the thing is there's different levels of feeling good. You can feel good on the bodily platform, like, you may have just come back from a run. You could have eaten this thing that you really like to eat, and then you're able to sleep better, or you're able to sleep nicely, or something like this. Anyway, so many ways that the body can feel good. Then that's one way of feeling good, and that's feeling good more or less, on a completely gross platform. But there's also feeling good on the subtle platform, where a person can, uh, you know, a person can do a few things, and then the mind actually feels a little like it is not so disturbed. Like I remember being a young monk, a young brahmachari, like 10 years. No, no, I wasn't 10 years ago. I was not definitely not a brahmachari. 9 years ago, 8 years ago, I remember being a young monk, and we were being instructed by the senior monks, by the senior devotees there, that yes, you're distributing books here. When you go and distribute these books to women, sometimes they'll try to hug you, but don't hug them back. Please, don't hug them. Just like we do this. We have like a weapon. We do this. I'm a monk. So like they taught me this. Do this. Anytime a woman says, I'm a monk. And like you bow down and you step back, and you're like, wow, okay, Maharaj. We'll definitely do this. Sounds good. So then I remember then another person who was with me said like, I mean like, yeah, and we were just shooting bush together, and then like lo and behold, he hugged a woman. I was like, bro, what did you do? Why did they ask us not to do it? And he said, see, as of me, I'm totally not affected by these kind of things. I'm not affected by lust. I'm not affected by all these things. And then I was like, either this guy is really crazy or he's really elevated, one of the two things. And turns out he wasn't elevated. You know, so then I went and I asked the person who told me, like, Maharaj, this guy, like, we tried to, I did this one, but he did that one. So, like, you know, and he said he's not affected by it. And then they told me this, and this really, like, changed my life. That this guy is so lusty that he doesn't even realize when he's being affected by lust. Like, there's a reason why homies take a tolerance break, because, like, they smoke so much that nowadays that thing doesn't even affect them. But does it mean that they're transcendental to the effect of marijuana or whatever? No. It means that they've taken a little too much of it, and they need to like calm down to actually like feel the effect of it later, right? It's called a tolerance break, or in New York, it's called the tea break, anyway, whatever. So there's a reason like that. So when we're so much affected by lust and all this other stuff, then at that point of time, where even when we're taking in more of it, we feel like I'm not even affected by it. I'm just like completely desensitized to it, or this or that. But then what happens is when a person restrains a little bit from it, just a little bit even, at that point of time, then the minute they start to engage in it again, they realize that actually, yeah, like I feel a little different. I'm able to enjoy this in a different way. And when you start to feel like, oh, I feel good, like my body feels fit, and my mind is like pretty good. And you know naturally, when a person starts to do anything regularly which is good for the body, like whatever it may be, like going to a gym or doing yoga or doing like whatever, 50 push-up, whatever you may do, whatever exercise you may do, and you do it every day at a particular time, you naturally feel like you're making progress in life, right? Like in order for a person who is fat to become like skinny and then have like a six pack abs and have like a whatever, like muscles or all these things, biceps and all these things, it may have taken them a lot of discipline to get from being an extremely fat dude to an extremely fit dude. It may have taken them some time. So because it took them this time, they think, wow, the fact that I'm able to do this means that I'm spiritual. How did that happen? I perform a little yoga, and then after I performed a little yoga, I started to feel good. And I'm doing yoga every day for 15 minutes in the morning. And honestly, I'll tell you one thing. If someone is doing yoga every day for 15 minutes in the morning, that's a great fit. Like, that's amazing. That's a great feat, sorry. It's a great feat, amazing. I've tried to get myself to do it so many times, but, all kudos to them. Kudos to the guys who are doing it, that's cool. But, you start to feel good, like, yeah, this is my time. And, you start to become regulated, right? So when a person starts to become even a little regulated, and it's called being in the mode of goodness, they actually start to feel like, wow, this is so nice. This is so nice. It's like, now I'm like spiritual. Now I'm spiritual. What makes that? How did you become spiritual guy? Because you stretch like this. Monkeys also stretch like this. So many people, so many animals, they all stretch in different ways, shapes, and forms. Doesn't make them spiritual, but because it's not gross sense gratification, or it's not gross like indulgence of the senses, people think that they've become spiritual. And that is the very problem. That is the very trick of the mind which cheats one to further be in illusion. That's a very trick of the mind. It cheats them. It cheats them somehow or the other. Okay, and there's so many conceptions. Oh yeah, I used to live in a big city and do all these things, but now, I live out in the country and I walk barefoot. Therefore, I'm spiritual. If you walk barefoot, you became spiritual. What is this? Where do these kind of ideas come from? But a person needs to understand that they need to be free from this whole conception of being the body. A person needs to be free from the whole conception of being the body. A person needs to be free from the whole conception of thinking that this entire material world is meant for my enjoyment. A person needs to be free from the conception of thinking that everything that I purview is simply so I can lord over it. Person has to be free of all these misconceptions. And that's not even the beginning of being spiritual. The beginning of being spiritual is, yes, to understand that you're not your body. That's not even the beginning. That to understand you're not your body is not even the beginning. The real beginning is, what do you do after you understand that I'm not this body? That is the real beginning. What am I supposed to do after I understand that I'm not this body, but I'm the spirit soul? That is the real beginning. And then, when a person starts to make steps in performing activities that are based that are completely soul based and not based on the body, then their spiritual life really begins. But but the thing is, people don't like that so much. People don't like that. Oh, I'm doing yoga, I'm doing all these things, and I'm completely I'm completely happy. Wow, another New York memory. We were distributing books, and we met this guy, and he was like, and we were giving them sweets. We would when we were out there, we would give them sweets, and he said, "Man, I don't eat sweets. I haven't eaten sugar in 2 years." And I was like, "Wow, that's so amazing. How are you doing that?" He's like, "Yeah, I just have a desire, and I don't want to eat sugar. I don't eat sweets." And they doing. Has anyone ever tried to give up eating sweets for some time? How many of you succeeded? Wow. Maybe today you're gonna make an exception, right? No. Okay, okay. We'll make sure your sweets have no sugar in them. Okay. Chandar. So yeah, So yeah, great. It takes a lot. How many of us succeed? I did it once for like 45 days for like a particular thing, and I was amazed too. But I was thinking like, dude, that's like so amazing. That's really awesome. But then he said, yeah, man, but like my girlfriend completely controls me. I was thinking, what is the use? You can eat sugar, you cannot eat sugar. That's very nice. You can control your tongue, but you can't control your belly and your genitals. What is the use? What is the use? A real yogi is someone who has completely learned to control their tongue, belly, and genitals. If these three things are not controlled, that person is not really a yogi. That person is not really a Goswami. Vacho vegam, manasakrodha vegam, jihva vegam, udaropasya vegam, etan vegan yo vishadeheta dhiraha, sarvam apimam prithivim sushishyat. This is a really ecstatic verse in the Nectar of Instruction written by Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, where he says, O sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger, and the urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals, is qualified to make disciples all over the world. If you want to call yourself a yogi, that's the standard. That's the standard. Really. A sober person. How many, sober person doesn't mean like, yeah, bro, I used to be like alcoholic, now I'm sober. That's not a sober person. Who can tolerate the urge to speak. What does this mean? Tolerating the urge to speak. We have a desire to speak so much nonsense. Constantly talk about this, talk about that, talk about this, talk about that, and we have this tendency to keep each other in illusion. All the time. Like I keep you in illusion, and you keep me in illusion by talking about subject matters which have more or less most of the time nothing to do with our eternal benefit. Most of the time. Most of the time, the conversations we have, the things that we say, the things that we eat, and all these things, they have nothing to do with our real benefit. Nothing at all whatsoever. But we simply like to say all these things. You know, the mind's demands. This is a really hard one. This is a really hard one. The mind's demands. The mind may demand so many things from us. So many things. Like sometimes we feel like, I just want to be free and I don't want anyone to tell me anything ever. And then, like, we think like that, like, wow, that sounds really nice. But unfortunately, even if no one ever tells you anything, we're completely the slave of our minds. We're completely the slave of our mind. Some people are so enslaved by the mind, they don't even realize that they're a slave of the mind. They're such obedient slaves that it just becomes natural for them to just follow the mind wherever the mind takes them. Here and there, here and there, here and there. You know, so many people are like that. That the mind takes them there and they just want to do that for some time, and the mind changes its mind and the mind goes somewhere else, and the person is completely dragged by it everywhere. But a sober person is able to tolerate the urges of the mind and do what is actually needful. Okay, what is needful? What do I really need to do right now in order for me to not be, a slave of my senses? Not to be a slave of my senses. That, the eyes may want to see so many things, the ears may want to hear so many things, the nose may try to smell so many things, the tongue may try to taste so many things, the skin may want to touch so many things. But a sober person knows how to control these things, how to control the urges of the senses, how to control the urges of the mind, the demands of the mind. And of course, what to speak of the actions of anger and the urges of the actions of anger. We experience so much actions of anger. Someone may say something, someone gets really fried out, someone just cuts you off while you're driving, and then, like, whoa, like, have you ever been with a person who gets really fried out when someone cuts them off, and it's like, please calm down, especially when you don't know how to drive. I remember, like, I learned to drive just like maybe recently, very, very recently, maybe 1 year ago, whatever. Before that, if I was in the car and someone else, the driver's really fried out, there's nothing I could do to, like, help the situation. The more I said things, the more angry they would get, the more the speedometer would be going, like, oh my God, please, Krishna, save me. And then, yeah, anyway, Krishna saved me so many times. But we see actions of anger. Oh my God, it's almost impossible. Like, when a person gets angry, like, it's what will a person who's angry not do? So many horrible things. Person who's angry, what will they not do? So many things. You know. But a person who's learning to control that anger, person who's learning to control these things, that person is a real yogi. To hell with your gymnastics. To hell with your hot yoga studio girls. To hell with your whole I'm vegan and I can do whatever thing I like, as long as I'm this, as long as I'm that. No. If we're unable to control our senses, if we're unable to control our mind, what is the use of all these things? It's simply useless. It's simply useless. And then tongue, belly, and genitals, we can see if a person stands, we see the tongue, belly, and genitals are in one straight line. They're all in one straight line. If you learn to control the tongue, then you have hope of the other two. But unfortunately, we don't. We don't. I was telling this recently to last Sunday. I was telling this to a guy in the Sunday program. We were taking prasadam together, and he was telling me, like, his whole, like, life problem, and this kind of stuff. And I have a lot of respect for him. He was like a former NFL player and all this stuff. And anyway, and he was telling me, all these things as to how, like, he's trying to do this, he's trying to do that, but he has to do, but his mind is always tormented. And then he was going on and on. So this, I cut him off. I told him, I figured out, man. I think I know what your problem is, And then he said, what's my problem? I said, my man, you think more with your genitals than with your mind. And then he was like, that is so true, man. It's gotten me in trouble so many times. Anyone who's honest will realize that. It's gotten us in trouble so many times. So how many times, like, even I can think of, like, before I became a monk, before I became brahmachari, whatever. How many times, if I had just controlled the urges of my tongue, belly, and genitals, how much trouble would I have kept myself out of? How much trouble? Oh my God, unlimited amounts of trouble. Unlimited. I would have certainly, like, saved myself from so much trauma, so much anxiety, such a waste of money, such a waste of time, such a waste of energy. And overall, like, at the end of it, you have nothing like valuable that comes out of it, other than regret. Other than regret. Other than regret. So many times, like, oh man, I really wish I didn't do that. But sometimes we're so dumb and stupid that even after we do the same mistake, we continue to do it again and again and again and again, over and over again. Why? Because that's complete stupidity. You know, I remember another guy. I distribute books to him. He was, what are the guys in the ambulance called? Like, who like help. Yeah, paramedic, like, first class responder or whatever it's called. Paramedic, I don't think it's first call. So anyway, y'all know what I'm talking about. The paramedic guy, he does that, and like, he does like so many. There's an accident or someone like immediately has to deliver a baby. They take them to the hospital to deliver the baby or whatever. He told me that so many times he's experienced that a young man and a young woman, the woman is about to deliver the baby and she's undergoing so much pain. And she tells the guy, "It's all your fault. It's all your fault. You're the reason why I've died this here. I'm never going to have sex again. There's so much pain. I'm never going to do this. Never going to do this again. And then what happens? And the guy 2 years later sees the same woman and the same guy. The same conversation repeats again. So many times the same thing happens over and over again. Like, so many people get drunk, like, bro, I'm never drinking again. But the senses are dragging us here and there. Senses drag us here and there. But then our senses can drag us here and there. But at what point of time will we say the buck stops here? At what point of time will we take charge of our own lives and say, all right, the buck stops here. This is it. No more. Finish. I'm done. But at what point of time? At what point of time will we say completely that when will I stop material sense gratification once and for all? When will I stop being a slave to my senses once and for all? When will we say that the buck stops here? When will we come to that point of realization? She needs water. Like, when will we say that, at this point of time, I'm done being a slave to my senses. I'm done being like a fool. I'm done listening to my mind. I'm done thinking with anything other than my own intelligence. At what point of time will we come to say this? At what point of time will we come to realize this? That choice is up to us. We can go and stretch our body so much and do all these things so much, but then if the character of the person does not change, then what is the use? A person got really fried out with me last time I made this point that you can do yoga in the morning, but then after that, if you're simply like going and drinking and doing all these horrible things, what is the use? You're not a master of your senses. You're a slave to your senses. They got really fried out with me. I didn't see them for a long time, and then recently they bought a whole set of Bhagavatam from me. But it happens, and these things have an effect. Unless we're actually learning to be the controller of our senses, then it's impossible to do so. But then, if we think, yes, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to do it all on my own, that also we really have no chance. Why? Because we're competing against the material energy of Krishna. We're competing against the illusory energy. Who knows, like, all these different tricks and gimmicks, how to just simply get a person back to going back into their habits of repeated things which are not good for them. It's like, how many people take New Year resolutions? Anyone took New Year resolution and stuck with it? I'm proud of you. Did you get it right in the first shot, or it took you like a? Wow, there you go, man. That's amazing. Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's good. You see, so many people take a New Year resolution, like, I'm going to go to the gym. That you see, like, in January, the gym memberships go up like anything. They really go up. So I'm going to go to the gym now, and I'm going to stick with the gym. I'm going to go. But so many people, Jan 1, 31st night itself, they're like so completely drunk that forget about going to the gym on Jan 1, then Jan 2, Jan 3, and then after like the third week, it's done. It's over. Why? Because we're pulled back. We're pulled back to our senses. We're pulled back to our previous ways. Therefore, what is the way to control our senses? What is the real way that a person can actually feel like this time, now, finally the senses are completely under control? The answer is very simple. Ata Shri Krishna Namadi, Nabhavet Grahyam Indriyehi, Sevon Mukehi Jivado, Swayameva Spuratida. You know that a person has a tongue, and with the tongue, what we should do is we should chant the names of Krishna. Ata Shri Krishna Namadi, Nabhavet Grahyam Indriyehi. Sevon Mukehi Jivado. Your spiritual life really starts with your tongue. Spiritual life starts with your tongue. What do you do with your tongue? You eat and you talk and you sing. So, if a person knows that a person should control their tongue, then we can start by chanting this mantra behind me. You can please say it with me. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. By chanting the names of Krishna, a person can actually learn to control their tongue. There's other words. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchite. That a person who practices Krishna consciousness, what they do is they keep their senses in control of the master of the senses, who is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A person who wants to control their senses keeps their senses in the service of Krishna. They engage their sense in the service of Krishna. And that way their senses are automatically controlled. And there's this one thing I read in Srila Prabhupada's books many years ago, which I look at pretty constantly in order for me to remember. And this is a small sentence, but it completely changed my life. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 22, text number 24. And this verse, and this part of this purpose says, if we simply practice avoiding material sense gratification, controlling the senses is automatically achieved. If we can look at that. If we simply practice avoiding material sense gratification, controlling of the senses is automatically achieved. It's a matter of practice. It's a matter of practice. Like, if I know, like, for example, I used to know a friend, who was, very much, addicted to like certain substances. And he knew if he were in New York and he drove down that alleyway, all his like months of being sober and all these things are going to go down the drain completely. So, what's the solution? Don't go down that alleyway. Just move somewhere else. Just like delete your old numbers. Just do whatever. We need to learn to control avoiding material sense gratification. And the way we do this is by engaging our senses in the service of Krishna. That when we engage our senses in the service of Krishna, naturally our senses become controlled. Why? And what is the main thing? It starts with your tongue. Yes, you chant Krishna's names. You talk about Krishna, you read these books, you speak what you read in the books, repeat what you hear in classes, and you do all these things. Yes, but what the purpose, the main thing, in this like a trick, what we have to do is we have to be intellectually convinced. If you're intellectually convinced, there's nothing anyone can do to shake you off your determination, right? Sir, you realize that, Facebook is wasting a whole lot of your time, and then you're intellectually convinced that you should not do it, and you deleted the app, and it's like, like you flush it in the toilet and you never have to look at it again because, did it make any difference to your life, your quality of life? Actually, it did, because it made your life better, right? Right? It did, So this is a natural thing. When a person is intellectually convinced, then they can actually do it. So how do we become intellectually convinced? We have to sharpen our mind. We have to sharpen our intelligence. We have to give time and attention to what is actually needed, to what is actually the most important thing in our life. So that's why, in the best way to intellectually convince ourselves is by reading these transcendental books. By reading these books, we have so many books there. We strongly recommend everyone read the Srimad Bhagavatam. That's the essence of all Vedic knowledge. You read these books. By controlling the book, by reading these books and applying what we see, then we can totally control our mind. It's not like, wow, I became a spiritual guy. I've been chanting Hare Krishna. I've been reading these books. Now, now I feel like the whole world is going to completely change. No, the world is not going to change, but the way we look at the world is going to change. That's why Krishna recommends in the Bhagavad Gita that a person should be Shastra Chakshushaha. A person should see this world through the eyes of knowledge. Jnana Chakshushaha. A person should see this world through the eyes of knowledge. That's why we say, Om Ajnana Timiranthasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master, Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa, Parivrajagacharya Ashtotar Shri Srimad Bhakti Vikas Swami, for opening my darkened eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. You know, opening our darkened eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. Because by doing so, we can actually see things for what they are. That's why in this verse that we chant, it's like the invocation. There's this word called Jnananjana, which literally means the eyes are anjana. You know, you heard, what is this thing called women wear underneath their eyes? Black thing? Yeah, eyeliner, mascara. In Hindi, it's called kajal, So, this anjana, it is like an ointment or whatever that, that people rub under their eyes or whatever. You know, Similarly, this is called Jnananjana, the ointment of transcendental knowledge. The ointment of transcendental knowledge, when it's rubbed on the eyes, a person can actually see the world through the eyes of Shastra for what it actually really is. This material world is an ocean of misery comprised of the tears of the fallen conditioned souls. A person who has the knowledge, a person who can see through the eyes of knowledge, will come to this proper realization. They'll come to see these things that, okay, wow, a self-realized soul may be looking at the sun, and a person who is completely conditioned and struggles with their own senses may be looking at the sun. And although they're looking at the same thing, the conception is completely different. So many people, when they look at the sun, what would they think? Like, I remember I used to think, wow, the sun is like a, big planet, or like it has so much gravity or whatever, this and that. And a self-realized soul, when he sees the sun, what does he think? Yachak Shiresha, Savita Sakala Grahanam, Raja Samasa Suramuti Rashesha Tejaha, Yasyagnaya Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakra, Govindamari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Then while he sees the sun, like, wow, the sun is like the eye of Krishna. He's able to see. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Asoham Apsakontaya Prabhashmi Shashishuryayoho, that Krishna is the sunshine. Krishna is the light of the sun. A conditioned soul may be drinking water, and a self-realized soul may be drinking water. But when a person drinks water, they don't think. But when a self-realized soul is drinking water, what do they think? Rasoham apsakontaya. Krishna is the taste in water. It's easy. It's a small example, but it works. You can look at the world through the eyes of Shastra. Okay, all right. I don't accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of God. I don't think that Krishna is that's Krishna's eye. I don't think that sunshine is Krishna. I don't think that Krishna is a taste in water. Cool, fine, no problem. It requires a little purification. But at least when we read these books, we can understand how people are actually functioning. That the reason most people do what they do is because they're struggling to control their senses. That anyone who's intelligent enough will agree. That the problem is that they are not controlling these objects, but these objects are controlling them. Common example often stated is a cigarette. How many people who smoke cigarettes think that they're controlling the cigarette? How many people? Almost everyone thinks, yeah, I'm controlling the cigarette, no problem. But in reality, who's controlling whom? The cigarette is controlling. So many people may be alcoholics, And it starts off like, oh, it's no big deal. Oh, I can control it. I can totally control it. First, the drinker takes a drink. Then, then what happens is the drink takes the drinker. Like, you take, oh, you want to drink, okay, no problem, I'll take the drink, Then you keep drinking, then after a certain point of time, the thing controls your life and it takes your life altogether. Why? Because people do not even realize that they're not, that they're being dragged by their senses. And don't need to be like a very saintly person to realize this is common sense. It's really common sense. It's really almost like everything which I've said is basically common sense. It's all coming from the Bhagavad Gita. So when a person reads these books and applies them and sees how these things are actually practical, and sees that how these things actually work, and look at the world through the eyes of Shastra, then naturally their suffering is mitigated, and naturally their senses are under their control. Naturally. It's no big deal. It's not like some big mumbo jumbo. It's not like a big workout. It's not like you have to go to the Himalayas at like this date at this time and at this particular moment you have to like throw a stone up, and nothing like that. No, nothing like that. It's a very simple process, and it can start right here, right now. And I'll tell you the easiest way to control your senses, believe it or not, is to eat this feast that we have cooked with so much love and devotion to Krishna. Simply by eating this prasadam, which we have cooked with so much love and devotion for Krishna, the senses become so much controlled. Taste for sense objects go away. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina rasovarjam rasopyasya param drishva nivartate. It's a really ecstatic verse, which I most of the time forget the verse number 4. Anyone remember the verse number for Vishaya vinivartante? Um, okay. Anyway, I'm unable to remember it. Anyway. So I'll tell you the translation anyway. That Vishayavani Vartante Nirahara Siddhina. That if a person wants to get a higher taste, if a person wants to give up, lower taste, he wants to give up lower tendencies and all these things. What does one need to do? They need to get a higher taste. If you are used to eating simply like dry leaves and all these things, and someone comes and offers you ice cream, immediately, like your taste for dry leaves goes away and your love for ice cream increases. So similarly, most of the time, you know, similarly, when a person gets the higher taste of spiritual bliss, at that point of time, all the lower tastes just go away. They dwindle away. They dwindle away. I remember I used to be attracted to eating so many things, which I would rather not mention, you know. I was attracted to eating so many things, and the smell of these things itself would agitate my senses. But the more I took prasadam, the more the taste for all these things just went away. They disappeared out of the blue. I didn't have to perform like some big austerity or anything like this. No. Just by performing devotional service unto Krishna, the senses are automatically controlled. Vasudevi Bhagavati, this verse I know, the verse number I know. Vasudevi Bhagavati, Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha, Janatyadi Asha Vairagyam, Jnanam Chayada Haitukam. That, yeah, we see this. By rendering devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. It happens. Krishna is so kind, it just naturally happens. That you get so much knowledge, you get so much detachment. How is this possible? Because we're not alone. Krishna is here to help us at every step. At every step. In every step, Krishna is there. Krishna is there to help. Not in some impersonal way, oh yeah, he's smiling at me from heaven, but no. Krishna is present within every atom of the universe and between those atoms in a personal way. Ekopyaso Rachyutam Jagadanda Kotim Yachaktirasi Jagaranda Chaya Dantaha Andantarasa Paramanu Chayantarasam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. That Krishna is present everywhere personally. He's present personally as the super soul in the heart. He's present personally in every atom, and he's present between those atoms also. Krishna is personally present there to help. Simply the desire needs to be there. That's all. The desire needs to be there. Try it out. What do you have to lose? We call this one the Hare Krishna challenge. You chant Hare Krishna every day for like 10 minutes. What do you lose? Nothing really. And then you eat as much of this prasadam as possible, and you read these books just a little bit, even one paragraph a day. Then one will find how much of a difference it actually makes. How much of a difference it actually makes. When one realizes this, when one understands these things, and when one does all these things, then at that point of time, a person will actually realize what it means to finally be free. Finally, free at last, thank God Almighty, you'll be free at last. Really, you will. Why? Because at this point of time, the senses will not be holding us back. At this point of time, you'll be able to see things for what they are really. What are they really? Like a famous poet from America said, you will realize with your real eyes. Anyway, I probably got that wrong. But you'll see. You'll actually be able to see this. You'll actually be able to see. So many things, you've been lied to. Oh, yeah, yes, sense gratification is the aim of life. Be a great person, earn a lot of money. You earn a lot of money, what happens? Most of the people who earn a lot of money, they end up killing themselves. Why? It's not the goal of life. We've been cheated and lied to our whole life thinking, oh, this is the goal of life. Life is so amazing. Yes, you will find that pot at the end of that rainbow. So many things, so many stories. Yes, Santa will come and give you everything that you need. Where is it? Where is it? Where is the real happiness that we're looking for? Where is it? Where? How much pain, how much suffering is caused in this material world? So much, But a person who has transcendental eyes, who sees this world through the eyes of transcendental knowledge, will realize how all these things do not affect them. You cannot be fazed by all these material temporary things. There's at a certain point of time, We will not be controlled by things, but we'd rather use them in Christian service and then control them that way. You know. So anyway, it's a long topic. It's a big thing. This is a Prabhupada really goes at it in this purpose, so I had to also. So if there's any questions, comments, or protests, we can take them now. You can kindly raise your hands if you have anything. Yes, mother. Kalina. I got it. Okay. One moment, please. Yes.
I have a question about gambling, to
Yes.
be specific. So, what is the problem with gambling?
What is a like? What do you think? Like really? Like you may speculate a
I can
little bit.
speculate,
Yeah.
from like how many people may get murdered around it because it's taken like just too seriously. So it's like kind of putting an idol or some other aspect of an idol above God.
Mm.
Um, but
Yeah. True. That's there for sure.
and maybe
It,
like enjoyment too.
enjoyment. But you see, the thing is that when a person gambles away, they're trying to get something which does not really belong to them. They're trying to, like in a particular way, usurp someone else's property and usurp someone else's position. You know, they're trying to take, oh yeah, we'll roll these dice and we leave it all on the basis of fate and we leave it all on the basis of this and that. But at a certain point of time, one will realize that it simply increases one's greed. You know, let's just say a person is gambling. They are, thank God, I'm forgetting the names of so many movies I saw when I was younger. But there was this, oh, I remember it. Hangover, right? Is that what it is? It's all about like how the guy read this book and like he figured out how to gamble real nice or something like this. That's not. Oh, good, great. Okay, don't tell me the name. Okay, so I feel so happy. Krishna consciousness is working. We say, anyway, whatever. It's some stupid movie. The guy reads a book and he realizes how to like, gamble real nice and do all these things and then they finally like figure out how to gamble. But then it's like, okay, I'll gamble one time and I'll win it, and once I win it, I'll never gamble again. You know, how many people actually do that? How many people actually do that? The truth is, when a person gambles, the house always wins. Always, the house. What does that mean? That a person is actually losing their hard-earned wealth. It does not. It increases greed, and when greed is increased, then what happens? What happens? Greed is there, lust is there, anger is there, wrath is there. People are destroyed, totally destroyed, completely destroyed. How many lives has this taken? For what? For what reason? You know. And there's this famous play, Monte Claro or something. I remember reading this quote by Srila Prabhupada. Maybe I can pull this up. Prabhupada was also speaking about this. Should definitely bookmark this. Sorry. We see this. I'll just try to pull it up. If I don't, I'll try to. Okay. 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 Good. Where is that? Okay. Okay. Um. This is not it. This is not it. I'll find it. Oh yeah, this is it. Okay. There you go. Yes. So Prabhupada says yes. Gambling means betting. Everyone can read that. Should I increase the font a little bigger? Okay. Good. Okay. Yes. Gambling means betting. That is gambling. People are betting. You put $1, and if you gain, you get $10. Otherwise, you lose $1. This is gambling. They're gambling in Christian churches also in the Western countries. So gambling is considered sinful activity. One Mr. Bhattacharya, a barrister, he was educated in England. He told me there's some island, yes, Monte Cristo. Thank you. There is gambling, devotee, Monte Carlo, yes, Monte Carlo, yes. He said that there are gamblers, and when one gambler loses everything, he commits suicide immediately and he'll go on. That's all. Nobody cares for him. He told me. It is a fact. Just see the gambling. They bring all their fortunes to stake and they lose everything. And then, out of frustration, takes a revolver and shoots himself, dies, and it is thrown on the street or in somewhere. Nobody cares. Just like cats or dogs. So there is gambling in Monte Carlo, and then, oh yes, Prabhupada, any big city. Oh, here you go. When you get money, then gambling. The horse race is also gambling. The horse race, like this gambling, drinking, meat eating, these things were all unknown in India. Anyway, now this is a whole other thing. But then we can also see, you understand this point, right? And then you see when gambling comes, it doesn't just stop there. In a casino, is it just gambling that's there, right? Like I know, I heard, thank God I don't know. I was too young to visit these places when I found out about them. There's one place like the seven wonders of the world, like where you have in the like anyway, all these different like like India's Taj Mahal, and like like Paris's Eiffel Tower, and like the pyramids of Egypt and all these things. And you have like all these different seven wonders of the world, and you can go and you can, you go to that part of the casino and you can like gamble like Indian style, and you get Indian kind of food, and you get like Indian prostitutes, and you get all these different things, and you get Indian alcohol, and you get this kind of thing. There's like French prostitutes and French kind of thing, but it doesn't just stop with just gambling. Like there's always all these other things that are involved. You know, and it causes the downfall and degradation of a person. Does that make sense, mother? So yeah, that's a short answer, and if you want more, I could send you this conversation, and then you could read it. Is that okay? Awesome. Anything else? Yes, Mr. Geronald. Hare Krishna. You want
Hare
to
Krishna.
turn the camera around, get a good
Uh,
look?
to piggyback on your gambling situation,
Mhm.
my late wife,
Oh.
she and I, the first time we went to Las Vegas, uh, she went to a convention, and I was upstairs waiting for her to get out of the convention class.
Mm.
And she liked to gamble. She was very good at it.
Mm.
I mean, she would win.
Whoa.
And so I just said, "Oh, I'm gonna go downstairs and meet her, and we're gonna have lunch together after she gets out of the meeting." And so I'm downstairs. I'm standing in front of the door, waiting for her to come out. And I see her coming out, and she starts digging into her purse. And she walks right by me. She doesn't even see me,
Oh my God.
and she goes straight to the slot machine and
Yeah.
starts gambling. I'm standing there looking at it. I'm going, "Wow, this is the
Yeah.
first time I've ever seen this."
Yeah.
What really was, how she was. But yeah, but she would win at gambling. I would have to say she was very good. There was one
Mm.
summer we went to a place and she won $20,000 during the course of the summer. She called it her part-time job.
Wow. Part-time
But
job.
as you were saying about going into gambling, there are other things. As long as you're gambling, all drinks are free,
Yeah.
free, and all cigarettes are free.
Yeah.
And
And then you always have like a hot girl like shitting you on, like, yo, my
Exactly.
man, you
They're
got
walking
this.
around
Whoa. I don't know how they do it, but something
scantily
like
clad.
that.
They're walking around
I'm sure they don't
scantily
do it.
clad, offering the drinks and the cigarettes to you.
Yeah.
And there are no windows, so you never know whether it's night or day.
Yeah. Yeah. You never know. Like, people spend so, whoa, what happened here? What happened here? They never leave. They never leave. Yes.
I mean, we've had our own experience of gambling, and I mean, not we didn't gamble.
I was thinking,
but
like, what are you
know-
talking about,
no,
bro?
listen,
Like,
listen.
I took a vow.
Wait, listen, we went into a casino.
Oh, yeah, I was about to say that too.
in
I was thinking, like, you would really
in Miami.
got
What
me.
casino was that?
Hard Rock
Hard
Cafe,
Rock-
HRC.
Hard Rock Cafe Casino,
Yeah.
and it was the crazy. I've never been inside one before.
Yeah,
in my
me
life.
neither.
And it was like
I was first time legal to enter a gambling.
like you could really feel like, oh my gosh, this place
Yeah.
feels like time never goes by. And it was just crazy. It was just insane. And actually in Las Vegas, anyways, it sounds weird now. We were all in Las Vegas.
Distributing books.
Distributing
please.
books. Yeah. We, were
We have video evidence of this
we were traveling
on our way to LA.
on our way to LA
And not me, them.
and traveling across the country. So we thought we'd go past Las Vegas. And then, we distributed books for a little bit. Then we started doing Harinam. And then we went inside the casinos. And people looked like they woke up. It's
Like,
like, and everyone started going, "What's going on?" And then
Good morning.
the security guard came, so we ran away, and then they went
Yeah.
back to their, nonsense.
Yeah.
But,
I remember like, distributing books with this hard. It was you, me, and Matsya, right?
Yeah.
That was the three musketeers for life, or the terrible trio, whatever you want to call us. I remember being there. I was trying to distribute these books to these guys. I was telling them, man, like, this, bro, you want good luck? You want good fortune, man? I was like, yeah, buy these books, man. Buy these books. He's like, man, I have $10. I said, choice is yours, bro. How many times have you lost $10 in the slot machine, bro? Many times, man. Have you ever won? Actually, never, bro. I said, dude, do something different for once. Please do it, The first guy didn't do it. He's like, you know what, man? No, man. And he's like, oh, Krishna. And then the second guy is like, you know what? I'm going to try it out, man. And then, like, he did it too, and he bought it. And then like there were many people in the casino. Someone gave who did they give $100 to, you or
It
me?
was me.
Oh yeah, they see a monk like, yo, if I give a monk a donation, it's going to be good luck for me, man. And like
He, he wept at this huge
a huge
wad. It was
wall,
like ten
yo, can I
thousand
have half of
dollars.
that, man?
It was like $10,000. He was like, it's like here's 100. I was like, bro,
Come
come on,
on,
bro.
don't flash like that. Man. He was flexing, you know. We were hoping like, give us a few. But anyway, you know, they see this, their senses are so like out of control. They never know. Like you could literally, you would never know what time it was, you know. AM, PM,
They look like zombies too.
zombies too. Like, and they try, and like, you know, what's the worst thing is like when you go to places like that, you see old grannies, you know. I'm like, what are you doing? I like, bro, like she had like I was shocked. I thought like, oh, this you just see this in like How I Met Your Mother as just a joke or something. But then like, you know, she had like this whole what's it? What is that? Bag of
Us?
coins or slot things, whatever you enter into the slot thing. And they were jumping from one slot machine to another to another. I'm like, don't you have grandkids? Like, don't you have a life? Like, what are you doing in here? But see, they are not. They. I mean, wow, this is like a whole like class for you here. But you know, you get the point, right? Right? You know. Anyway, this. Anything else? All right, Chandra. Oh yes, my man, Chris.
Yes, I wanted to talk, refer to the senses
Uh-huh.
that you were speaking of, and dealing with the spirituality. And I wanted to speak about the partly K, partly Chi, and partly Kim particles that make the reality, the physical reality of what we see.
Uh-huh. I do not know the technical names for this, but like, you know, you see, understand if you read in the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, you know, we can actually understand that there's 8.4 million species of life, and every species of life has its own senses, you know, and these senses are limited to a certain degree. For example, like we can only hear from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz, right? That's what we can hear from. But in the dog, there's a whistle that, you know, if you blow, we can't hear the whistle, but the dogs can hear it. What's it called? Dog whistle? I heard learned like a really complicated name for this thing. But anyway, whatever. Dog whistle. You know, we can't hear a dog whistle. You know why? Because we don't have the modes of material nature do not really like fix it for us in that way. And if you know, if you want to know more about this, what I strongly recommend is you read chapter 14 of the Bhagavad Gita. It's called the modes of material nature, you know, and that you'll understand more. Okay? Anything else? Yes, Mother Deja.
How does one recognize like the difference between the urges and the demands of the mind versus intelligence?
I mean, see, the mind, you know, it doesn't have the intelligence doesn't have urges per se. You know, the intelligence is a sober one. You know, he knows what to do. The mind is the one who's simply like accepting and rejecting things. There's a stark difference between the two. So the intelligence is the one who makes the decisions. You know, whether or not I should go with the mind. You know, so if he decides to go with the mind without thinking about it, the intelligence is under the control of the mind. But then that's why we say control your mind. You heard this before? I mean, like, you know, in the Brahmacharya ashram all the time. You know, control your mind. You're asked to control your mind. Why are you asked to control your mind? You know, because your intelligence is higher than your mind. If you want to know more about this, Indriyani Paranyahur, what's the verse number? 342. Indriyani Paranyahur, Indriyebhya Parav Manaha, Manasastu Parabhuddhir Yo Buddhe Parasastu Saha. That I can, it's probably it's not the last one for sure. A second last, probably. Yes. Boom. Okay. So the working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses, and intelligence is still higher than the mind. And he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. You see? So desire, you know, we have desire. You know, the soul has, you know, we as a soul, we have the desire, but the mind, he's a non-devotee. He's always proposing things which are not good for us. So the intelligence is supposed to be sober and control the mind. Does that make sense? Okay. I think am I like going over time here? Like, okay. I'll stop here. Thank you all for your kind attention. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada stands in book distribution ki jai. And now we chant japa. Can I have some beads, please? Thank you.